All right, how we doing today? We are here for Mixology 101. We have permission from Steve the bartender. Fantastic dude from Australia. Makes some fantastic cocktails, and we're going to go over some of his videos and talk about certain things that he does in cocktails, some of the reasons why they do it, and just get a little bit into the mind of a mixologist. So first up, we have 3 tips for beginners to make perfect espresso martinis. Let's get a little bit into this here.
Today we're here to discuss the 3 top tips on how to make the perfect espresso martini. Specifically, how to get that crema on top, that really nice thick crema that goes hand in hand with an espresso martini.
So the that like nice crema on top of the espresso martini definitely comes a lot from a good foaming agent. Certain cocktails use like egg whites, or there's a replacement aquafaba, or one that's made from like tree bark from Canada. I can't remember the name of it. But there's some natural ones as well, like coffee, espresso, and like pineapple juice and stuff, for example. Those also like usually get like a nice foam or a nice crema on top of them when you shake them. You have to shake them quite a bit to get that. But let's go ahead and see what his tips are.
Now, it's not going to be so much about the recipe. I'm using an equal part recipe just to show how these tips work in the espresso martini and how you can make a great crema. Okay, tip number 1 is to make sure you use a good quality coffee. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to use fresh extracted coffee from a coffee machine, from an expensive unit. You can always use a cold drip coffee, which is actually great for making lots of espresso martinis. So if you're having a party or if you're tending bar and you're quite busy making a lot of espresso martinis, a cold drip is great. A cold brew concentrate, that also works really well. And I should actually mention the difference between the two.
Yeah, so definitely for sure. I used to make a cold brew concentrate quite a bit. Oh, Fire Monkey, thank you so much for the subscription. That's your 7 months. That's amazing. Thank you so much for that. We're gonna definitely have some fun tonight while we're talking about this. But what I was getting into definitely was with the espresso martinis here. There are some shortcuts that you can take, even with craft mixology, where this stuff doesn't have to be like you don't have to make the coffee to order every single time to put in the espresso martini, or the espresso itself. You don't have to pull a fresh espresso. I used to actually make cold brew concentrate before I got my espresso machine. It's an interesting process. It's a little bit like making a tea, but with coffee beans. And even using that, like when they're made, and you can even batch it, then you can use that as your foaming agent, and also the coffee part of the espresso martini that adds all those types of flavors that you'd want and expect into an espresso martini. You can prepare ahead for this kind of stuff, and that's what a lot of this is you can find these shortcuts by preparing ahead, and then you don't have to take a ton of time to make your craft cocktails, and they'll still be very quality, better than a lot of the bars that you're going to go to. Let's continue to hear what he says.
So a cold brew concentrate is a strong cold brew coffee, and a cold brew is essentially coffee steeped in water. It's like tea, but using coffee instead. And cold drip is using one of those really elaborate glass bong-looking apparatuses, and the ice cold water slowly drips through the coffee grind and takes 24 hours to make. So there's a little bit of variation between how they're made, but they're essentially cold extracted coffee. Today I'm using freshly brewed hot coffee in my espresso martinis.
The tag there said espresso, so he's actually using like fresh pulled espresso, which is actually what I definitely prefer now that I have an espresso machine. So the cold drip is very good. Actually worked like just as well, but it is slightly convenient to have your own like espresso machine to just kind of pour a shot or two out, and then there you go. You get something nice and hot and foamy to make this foam to put in your espresso martinis.
Either way, make sure you use a good quality coffee. If it's too weak, it's going to make a shit crema.
True.
So, let's get started. Ah!
I will say, I love that because I do that same exact thing. If I knock something over at my bar, I'll definitely do like a stuff like that. I don't know if that's just like normal human nature to just like let out a quiet ah. Like it's not that loud either. And he's not like in pain or anything. He just like wants to let you know that it was a slight panic in there. And I love that. It's hilarious.
So let's get started making these drinks. I am going to use the same coffee across both of these because unfortunately, well, fortunately, I don't have any shit coffee in the house. But it'll go to show the next two tips, how they work and how it's implemented to make a better crema in your espresso.
That's the trick. Just don't have shit
and
ingredients.
Course, fresh ingredients, quality ingredients all the time. This recipe I'm just doing equal parts. So espresso, Mr. Black cold brew coffee liqueur.
I want to give a little shout out to Mr. Black cold brew coffee liqueur. That stuff is fantastic. Best coffee liqueur I've ever had in my life. It actually tastes like coffee, unlike Kahlua does. Now, I have a soft spot for the Kahlua. My grandmother, her last bottle of liquor that she had in her life was an unopened bottle of Kahlua that she tried to bring into the retirement home that she lived at. They took it from her, and after she unfortunately passed, they gave us a bunch of her confiscated stuff and the stuff in her room and stuff and just said, you know, this stuff belongs to you now. Obviously, it was hers, so now it's all yours. And I took that unopened bottle of Kahlua. It's sitting on my bar right now, and I'm just like, this was my Yaya's last bottle, and boy, did she love Kahlua. She definitely did. But Mr. Black definitely has more quality in it. It is made with, I believe, vodka and actual just cold brew coffee. So it tastes just like that. It just tastes like a nice cold brew coffee, which is, you know, ideally what you want in a coffee liqueur, but still rare to find, unfortunately, that they actually taste like coffee. We'll go ahead and proceed. Just wanted to shout that out. Mr. Black is amazing. I'd recommend getting it.
And vodka. This one actually comes from Cut Hill Distillery, which is a local distillery. I'll add 30ml, 1 ounce to both of these. And then this is where tip number 2 comes into play. Make sure you use larger ice. I'm going to exaggerate and use a really large piece of ice to kind of exaggerate the impact that it has on the drink. But as long as you use like 25ml, 1-inch cubes, that's probably ideal. I'll leave a link in the description below to some ice molds that are absolutely perfect for making cocktails. But yes, essentially 1-inch cubes or bigger will make a better crema. If you use small shit ice, it's going to make it watery, and it's just not going to work as well.
Absolutely, that's definitely something to consider. There's a lot that you can look into as far as the ice goes in a cocktail. A lot of people don't even really think about it. They just throw ice in the shaker and get going. Really, there's even an entire book called Liquid Intelligence that you guys can check out. It's a cocktail book, but it definitely does talk about a lot about the science of ice, where the size of the ice and the quantity of the ice that you use are going to dilute and chill in different ways. Either adding more room for aeration as well, even, and they will melt at different paces when you pour it out. So like something like an old fashioned, they use those big ice spheres, and that's not just for a fancy look, it's that it actually melts a lot slower, so it'll dilute your drink a lot slower, especially with some of these like spirit forward cocktails. You don't want it to taste like water, you want it to taste like the spirit that you're going for. So there's actually a lot of science that goes into the ice that you're using. So that's something not to glance over, and I'd definitely say you guys should pay attention to the ice that you're using. And we're going to see it in this video, what it does using different ice.
There are actually quite a lot of bars that do prefer to shake with one large cube. And a couple of little ones, these are about 1 inch. As opposed to pebble ice. So, to compare so far, pebble ice versus large ice. Tip number 3.
So, first thing on that, tip number 2, definitely, the large cube and the couple small pieces is something out of that liquid intelligence book, I believe. They want one big cube for dilution and well, sorry, not so much for dilution. That big cube allows for a lot more aeration because there's more room that goes around it rather than a bunch of ice like jammed together in here. And then there's a couple small cubes for the dilution, because those are definitely gonna melt down. Um, it's known by a lot of people as like the ideal method for shaking most cocktails is to have the one large cube and then the two small agitator cubes. Um, it's just it's just something to look into, I guess, for sure.
How you shake your cocktail. Now it just needs to be shaken for about 10 to 12 seconds, just a relatively short period, and your key focus is to agitate the ice from one end of the tin to the other, back and forth. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a super hard shake, so I'm not going to shake it as hard as I normally do. I'm going to be a little bit more gentle, just to show that as long as you hit from one end to the other, then it should be, fingers crossed, you should be able to make a nice crema. So 10 seconds. That was about 10 seconds, wasn't it, Kat? Sure.
Steve always has this nice smile. Um, Definitely, especially if you're
So
doing
I really
it for a
didn't shake
bar.
it that hard. I could have given it a lot more.
Yeah, he did not shake hard at all. That's
And now,
impressive on that.
to say if I wasn't to shake it properly, if I kind of shook it like this, it's also got the pebble ice. I'm not really concentrating on trying to agitate ice from end to end. Or some people kind of, when they're first shaking, they do these ones.
Yeah, now you can see here, like,
As you can see, there's a big difference.
absolutely, Steve, there's a gigantic difference here. So you get that really nice crema, even on that gentle shake, going end to end there, as Steve so generously told us about and demonstrated there. Um, and that espresso martini on the left just looks miles better than the one on the right, and probably tastes so as well. Um, it's really amazing how much of a difference these small things can make. And that's what we're here to discuss, really, is that for you guys to like find out that I'm trying to spread information through what he presents because I learned most of what I know from Steve the bartender here. Um, by the way, if you caught his like amazing smile while he's shaking, it's fantastic, it's iconic, and everybody loves that.
So the size of the ice and how you shake it definitely makes a difference in your crema in an espresso martini. This seems to be dissipating quite quickly, whereas I think, just by the looks of it, this espresso martini, the crema will probably last a lot longer. There's a lot finer bubbles. It definitely looks like a thicker crema in comparison to this one. And you can see on camera from there, it's worlds apart. So I hope you found today's video useful. Just remember to use good quality coffee, larger ice is preferred, and agitate it whilst you shake from end to end for at least 10 to 12 seconds, and you should make a beautiful espresso martini.
Lovely. Thank you, Steve. That was incredible. This is such a knowledgeable man, and his channel really helps people a lot to learn a lot about these things in mixology that um, even like a lot of the seasoned bartenders at a lot of these other places don't know. Um, Craft is an entire game separate from the regular bartender scene, and you can definitely tell in these things a lot of these like home bartenders while they I don't know about how fast Steve can do this stuff, but like a lot of these people, the craft bartenders, you might not be able to pump out as many drinks, but like the biggest thing for me, and ideally the customer, depending on who the customer is that the drink just tastes way better. It's just way better in every respect, and that's what you really want out of this. And that's what I'm here to help you guys provide with this information that Steve the bartender has. Um, so we're gonna go into the next video that I have ready for you. I love this one. I commented with Steve the bartender messaged him before, and I talked to him about this video. We I've told him, you know, if this makes you pretentious, then we're both pretentious because it's such an obvious thing. And a lot of people know it, but apparently like things like 007, 007 doesn't know it, apparently. Um, we're gonna find out.
Stirred.
Oop, there
I
we
had a
are.
comment recently on one of my older videos, the Manhattan cocktail recipe, and Isaac Luna asked, why stir and not shake? And my response was to say that stirring adds chilling and dilution to a drink, whilst shaking adds chilling, dilution, and aeration. Just yesterday, I had another reply from Dick Zenormous. Dick Zenormous. I prefer it shaken, which also chills. It's 2 ounces of booze with a nip of vermouth. You're not going to notice a dilution of a few ice shards unless you are willfully pretentious.
Now that's ridiculous. This guy's comment. This you can definitely tell this guy's like a trash bar kind of person. Like yeah, I prefer my Manhattan shaken. You're not gonna notice a difference. But you know, here's my question then, right there is that if you're not gonna notice a difference, how do you say that you prefer it shaken? There's a difference. If you have a preference, you know, you're not gonna have a preference without there being a difference. Um, but also Steve will go on to say, I don't share all of the same opinions with Steve, but I do share a lot of them. Steve will go on to say that, you know, it's all subjective, blah, blah, blah. You know, you can drink however you want to drink, and that's right. I agree to a degree on that. But in cases like this, instances like this, I think that person's just straight up wrong. There's no debate for me. He's just absolutely wrong, and Steve is not pretentious for noticing this big difference on this.
So, I thought I'd run a little bit of an experiment on the channel to find out if I'm pretentious. So, stirring or shaking a cocktail increases the contact between the liquid and the ice. And the faster that you move the drink with the ice, the faster that it chills and dilutes. So essentially shaking is a way more efficient method of chilling and diluting a cocktail. So if you shook a cocktail for about 15 seconds, it almost reaches equilibrium where it's at that point where it's not going to get any colder and therefore it's not going to chill any further. Whereas if you're stirring a cocktail, that's going to take about 2 minutes or more. So no one is going to, well, most people aren't going to stir their Manhattans for 2 minutes, but you can understand why. If you shake a Manhattan, then it very easily and very quickly is going to become over diluted and possibly watery. Now, of course, I'm a big advocate for saying that if you like to serve your drinks in a particular way, that there's no right or wrong. So it's subjective. If you want to drink it that way, then that's fine, and that's still right. But I just wanted to carry out a experiment on the channel to find out if I'm pretentious by making a Manhattan and see if I can spot the difference between shaken and stirred of these 2 particular drinks.
A flattering picture that I just paused on there. But that's where it was where he was saying that it's, you know, it's not a big deal if you prefer serving your drink one way or another, and to some degree I agree with that. But I think that this is going to be like a definitely more objective view of this kind of thing where like I think you're kind of just wrong for uh wanting this like heavily over diluted. You're basically just drinking water. Um and at that point, why put in all this effort? Why have this preference? I don't know why you would have this preference. I don't know. Maybe I just don't understand it. Maybe you guys can talk to me and let me know if I'm kind of an asshole for saying that that's like just objectively wrong. But we'll see.
I'm going to grab some glassware and let's get to it. Alright, so I'm just going to do a classic 2-to-1 spec for my Manhattan. 2 ounces of rye whiskey. Make the drinks identical for consistency because this is a science experiment. 1 ounce of vermouth. I'm using antique formula, which is delicious. So 1 ounce, 30 ml. I'll just do 1 dash. Try and be as consistent as possible. And also I am going to count my ice cubes, so, you know, consistency.
Consistency? Consistency is nice.
That was about 7 cubes. I'll add a few more. Dave Arnold, the author of Liquid Intelligence,
There it
is the
is.
science guru of cocktails. One thing that he does mention in his book is there's a fundamental law of traditional cocktails, which is there is no chilling without dilution, and there is no dilution without chilling. I think that's the right way around. But yeah, meaning that they're inextricably linked, so you can't chill your cocktail with ice without it diluting, and vice versa. All right, I'm going to stir for like.
One thing I will say is that, a lot of people might have some kind of comment about how he's um, letting the ice like kind of just sit in these shakers and these stirring glasses and such. Um, might talk about, you can blame that over dilution on the fact that he stirred the first drink first and then let the ice sit in the shaker tin while that happened. Well, this author of this book, also Liquid Intelligence, I believe he made this comment, but I know that there's actual science backing it up, that the chilling and dilution don't happen very quickly at all um, while it's not agitated. So when the drink is just sitting in the ice, still dilutes incredibly slowly, and it's not going to make that much of a difference between like a minute of it sitting in the ice versus shaking it immediately. Um, you can definitely let me know what you think about that, but I believe I found some uh, evidence of that through, I think it was How to Drink. Um, Greg from How to Drink, definitely check him out as well. He's amazing. I think it was Greg from How to Drink that had mentioned that. So this tin that's just sitting here, it's not going to make a huge difference that it already has ice in it and it's just sitting there for a minute.
Like 20 seconds. Now shake for 15 seconds.
There's that smile.
Can't say I've ever shaken my Manhattans before, so this is going to be an interesting experiment. Nice wash line. You've got that little space from the top of the glass. Nicely diluted, I believe. And this almost looks, yeah, almost looks like a blood and sand. It's kind of like dirty looking.
And it does actually. It actually does. Let me pull this up right here. Blood and sand cocktail. Let me grab an image of it. Uh, 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 uh. Yeah, like where it gets this almost like orangey color to it here. This cocktail right here looks a little bit more like a blood and sand than a Manhattan. Like this one just looks very nice, very sleek, clean wash line, like he was saying there. If you notice, these are the same size glass, and this has a good extra little bit of space there. And what that extra space is some kind of mix of water and ice shards that are coming out when you're shaking it. It's a lot more of an aggressive act on the ice, so the ice is going to break in there sometimes. And then when you strain it out, you're just going to get a bunch of like these ice shards dipped in there. And that's okay for some cocktails, but definitely not something spirit forward that you're looking for. It's going to taste like water, and you're trying to get a lot of flavor out of that whiskey and that vermouth. You don't want it to taste like water.
Honestly, I'm surprised there's not actually, like, there's only a little bit more dilution in this one. Thought it was going to have a lot more. I mean, if I measured this out, which I probably should have in the name of science,
He did.
it could still be an extra ounce.
Here we are. So, an extra ounce was a good estimate there, but here's what he has. So he has 110 mils on one side. For those who don't know, that an ounce is 30 mils. So the other side has 155 there. So an extra ounce would have just been 140, which still is bad. But it's actually 155. It's 1.5 ounces of extra water in this drink. Um, that's a shot and a half, or depending on where you go, if you're ordering like it in a shot glass, that's usually 1.5. So that's an extra shot. Um, that's disgusting, especially when this cocktail is only the 110 mils. So that's like a little over 3 ounces, close to 4 ounces. That means now a fourth of that drink is water. So that's gonna be gross. It's gonna be very over diluted. I know that this could never taste good.
Of dilution here, which would make a huge difference. But this looks terrible. There's a lot of ice shards. This, if you got served this in a bar, if I got served this in a bar, I 100% would throw it back at the bartender because that does not look like your average Manhattan.
I will say also, I recently went to a gala with somebody who I very much like consider family. He won the Citizen of the Year award this year at the gala. Um, I went with him there and I ordered a Manhattan at the bar that they have at this country club. Um, I went up to him and the bartender, I was like, "Do you guys have any ryes? Like, do you have a rye selection? I prefer a rye Manhattan myself." He said, "We have no rye." I was like, "Okay, whatever." I guess they have Jim Beam. I'll do Jim Beam Manhattan. He pulls out a shaker tin, and I immediately got scared. This guy shook it just barely, which is good. He like just did like a little like ch ch. Um, but had like kind of a weird effect. It didn't quite have this like big foamy like brown look to it instead of this kind of like nice like amber reddish tint. It didn't have that. But it definitely wasn't a great Manhattan. It wasn't very good. Also, the cherry was not a Luxardo cherry, obviously. It made me sad. Maybe I'm just picky. Maybe I'm just a snob. I don't know. But let's go ahead
Manhattan
and
number
this.
one, stirred. Beautiful aroma to it. Oh, that vermouth is beautiful. Nice aromatics from the bitters. Now for my shaken Manhattan.
Yeah, so that looked like a good Manhattan, that first one.
Yeah, it tastes watery. It tastes it tastes really bad actually.
Mm-hmm.
It tastes watery. You've got like heaps and heaps of ice shards sitting on the top, which in this I wouldn't mind in a citrusy cocktail, in like a sour or something.
Right.
You get these little ice shards, but in a spirit forward cocktail, it's not nice. It's a bit unpleasant. Got heaps of aeration there, and it's got this. I don't know. It's so unusual having that in a spirit forward cocktail.
So he's gonna sip it again. Because why would you do that? But
It's just really flat. I wasn't expecting it to be this bad, to be honest. Way more flavorful. Way more flavorful. So the results are in. I'm 100% pretentious because I would prefer a stirred Manhattan over a shaken one. Do yourself a favor. No, yeah, do yourself a favor and don't even bother trying.
I didn't.
Shaken Manhattan. No offense to Dick Zenormous.
He has no offense. That's him. That's his agenda. Mine. Full offense to Dixie Normus. Like I, that name is pretty funny. Full offense. I definitely don't agree. And if he's pretentious because of this, we're both pretentious, and a lot of people should be pretentious if that's the case. If you ask me. Um, yeah.
No offense to Dick Zenormous. It's just an experiment that I wanted to try. If you like your Manhattan like this, absolutely, thumbs up to you. No problem. Link in the description below for Liquid Intelligence. Make sure you grab it if you don't have it. It discusses ice dilution, chilling, more the science.
Excellent, fantastic. So that's a big thing. I did not even test the shake versus stir on the Manhattan either because I just know I would hate it. I know it would be disgusting. It'd be a waste of my rye, a waste of my vermouth. I would never. Um, I'm not even gonna try it. Next up we have can I substitute ingredients when making cocktails? and I definitely might be blind. Let me see. There it is, right here.
The
This is a short. So we're gonna take a look.
most common question that I get asked on the channel is, can I swap X for Y? Whether it be, can I swap this gin for that, Tanqueray for Bombay, Scotch whiskey for bourbon whiskey, simple syrup for agave, lemon juice for lime juice. I get asked it all the time, and absolutely, of course you can. Will it make the exact same drink? No, it'll make a slightly different drink, but it's always going to work. If you're going to swap one spirit for another, it'll work. If you're going to swap one sweetener for another, yes, it'll work. You might have to tweak it to ensure that there's that balance in that drink, but it's still going to work. That's the best thing about cocktails. You can play, you can experiment, and you can learn, and you can grow.
Absolutely. So that's something I wholeheartedly believe in, that you can definitely substitute things, but very much underline that fact that you're not making the same thing. Um, I mean, like if I'm making like a gin sour, and I use lime juice, blah blah blah, something like that. If you if you go like, I don't have any gin, let me substitute it for tequila. Well, then you're making pretty close to a margarita, um, which is a completely different drink. Um, these small things, they do make a big impact on changing it. That's not to say that it won't be good though. It's just that it's not. It's almost like not accurate though that like a substitution in this is going to make a different drink. So it's not a substitution for this drink. I can't say like this is a gin sour that I substituted for tequila. You'd say like, this is a different drink. This is what I made, which is fine, and it might be delicious, but I wouldn't add that title if you substitute. I wouldn't even put a title on it of this like a gin sour, and that I wouldn't even say this is a gin sour because it's not. It's not. Um, Next we have, should I store my vermouth in the fridge? Very good question that I know a few people have talked about at places. Actually, at my bar that I worked at, the a new manager, Ricci. I love her. She's fantastic. She did have that question, I believe, at one point that should we be putting this vermouth in the fridge? And we had Smalls, my district manager, did explain it at one point though. Um, Wherever I have this short, should I store vermouth in the fridge? Here
So
we are.
one of the most common questions I get asked on the channel is, should you keep your vermouth in the fridge? Vermouth is shelf stable if unopened, but once it is opened, it's best stored in the fridge. Refrigeration helps to preserve flavour for two reasons. One, the low temperatures slow down the loss of aromatic compounds, and two, the lack of light slows down the effects of oxidization. For the best flavour in your drinks, keep your vermouths in the fridge and use them in less than 2 months. So one of the most common questions I get asked on the channel
That
is,
was
should you
fantastic.
keep
Let
your
me double check
vermouth
this again.
in
Actually,
the
I'm
fridge?
curious what he was making real quick. I didn't even see it. Oh, he's making
Vermouth is
a Negroni. Okay, okay. I'm not a big fan of the Negroni. It's very bitter for me, and I love bitter flavors. Like I like any drinks that use like full big amounts of like Angostura bitters or anything with most other Amaros. I love basically every other Amaro, but the Campari has been like way too much for me. I'm not a huge fan. I recognize that it's good in a lot of cocktails, and a lot of people do love things like the Negroni and um, cocktails of that sort. But it's just not for me. So real quick, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the restroom. We're gonna have a little pause here. Um, but then we'll come right back and we'll start discussing a little bit more on some mixology. Be right back. All right, we are back. All right, so here, first things first, I'm going to cut to the second part first to go to Steve the bartender. Oop, go to his website. Oop, not on GoDaddy. Jeez, what am I doing? Let me see if I can pop this up. Here we go. .au. Yeah, 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 yeah. That was it. Let me just shout out really quick though that Steve does have a cocktail book coming out very soon. Published date of 15th November 2022. He is an amazing person, has these fantastic tools, recipes, um, and techniques that I've needed a lot. I've learned a lot from him, and I'm definitely going to be picking up this book so that I can take in more of that knowledge. I think you guys should check it out as well. First, we're going to get back into this. Let's see. We have. There we are.
Guys, I became debt-free driving for DoorDash, and it's been great. I'm my own boss, and I'm in.
Hi everyone, welcome back
go.
to the Cocktail Vlog. I'm Steve the Bartender, and today I'm giving you a guide on what I'll be drinking on New Year's Eve. Now I've got 3 very different cocktails for you to try. The first is a very simple sour riff that I think is a great way to start the day. And then I've got 2 other cocktails, which they're batch cocktails. So it makes it a little bit easier for you, so you don't have to be mixing up cocktails for you and friends. You can pre-batch these cocktails and then throw them in the fridge. One's a little bit more on the fruity and sweeter side, so it will please everyone. And then you've got something more spirit forward. So make sure you hang around and I'll run through the 3 cocktails. So I'll be starting my New Year's Eve with a smoking honey hive, which is
This is a big important thing, especially for people like me when I have these like family gatherings and such. I am stuck being the bartender for the family. And this idea of like these batch cocktails and stuff can really save your ass from having to work so hard. And you can actually enjoy your family's company a little more when you can batch some cocktails. This first one is not so much that, but he has 2 others, like he said, 2 other recipes that are going to be batched. Likely to do the same thing for him. Let's hear about the smoking honey hive.
This creation of mine, very simple riff on a classic sour, a classic gin sour. So just recently, I did a sponsored video for Warner's Gin. I used their rhubarb gin and made 3 different cocktails. I'll leave a link up here so you can check it out. And they very recently launched their honeybee gin here in Australia. So I went out and grabbed myself a bottle. It's delicious. It's got this like soft honey floral note to it. It's got about 28 botanicals in it, and then it's got a dob of their farm raised honey. Their honey from their farm. So essentially, I know it's New Year's Eve. I know it's cold in some places, and in Australia here it's going to be quite warm. So therefore, I want to get the best of both worlds.
Look at him. It's going to be quite warm there. I'm jealous. We're in New Hampshire out here. It's going to be the Arctic.
So in Australia, sour, citrusy, nice and vibrant. But then in the countries where it's cold, I've got the honey and the cinnamon aspect. So I think, and obviously the smoke. So this should work wherever you are. Fingers crossed. Shout out to Dimitri. He created the Smoke UFO. His company is called Loft Rocket. And I've been waiting to use this for quite some time. I was hoping that he would start up an Etsy store so I could refer you guys to his little creation. He's been following the channel for quite some time and was inspired to create a individual drink smoker. So essentially you put your little timber creation on the top, his Smoke UFO, and then you add your wood chips into the top, light it up, and it infuses smoke into your drink. Really easy way to do it. And I've only used it a couple times so far, and it works fantastically. So, and
This is something that I've been looking to pick up very soon because I don't have even like a plank to smoke cocktails on. In my TikTok for the Sagittarius cocktail, I did end up smoking something, but I just have this almost like ceramic bowl type thing. Almost looks like a mortar and pestle. I just kind of put the rosemary that we smoked in there and lit it with a torch and then put the glass over it. This seems a lot more convenient. That's something that I want to get into doing.
the wood I'm using is a cherry wood. So first, let's start by making the drink. So let's start by measuring the ingredients. So 60 ml, 2 ounces of Warner's Honeybee Gin. Straight into the shaker. Then fresh lemon juice, 30 ml, 1 ounce. Really simple riff. So I've just taken a basic sour format. I used a honeybee gin. I've changed the sweetener to a cinnamon syrup to add a little bit of spice, and then smoked it at the end.
And that's sorry about that. That's a ratio that I actually really enjoy, is having this 2 of the spirit, 1 of the sour, and then 0.75 of a sweetener. For a sour cocktail, that's a really nice ratio, and you're gonna get it like very nice balance out of it while still being sour like a sour should be.
Then 22.5 ml, 3/4 ounce of cinnamon syrup. So these are all flavors that I think go really well together: honey, cinnamon, and smoke. And lemon, of course. And I'm not using egg white today. I'm using, don't even know how to pronounce it. It's a French Canadian foamer. Nori. And it calls for 1 dash.
Now that's something that's interesting. I haven't ever tried that before. Let me see. What is it? Norwa is how it should be pronounced, apparently, according to like French Canadian person down there. Um, so I like the idea of this drink a lot. I don't have any of that stuff. I might try to get some. Maybe we can recreate this cocktail possibly. 'Cause I definitely want to give this a try sometime. Um, I have a I have the Bar Hill gin that's made in Vermont that has honey in it, so it might be very similar, although a replacement, as I was just saying earlier, will not make the exact same cocktail, but hopefully I can make something very similar with that.
As an egg replacement. Egg white replacement, I should say. Add ice to the cocktail shaker. Do we need a dry shake?
Probably.
I don't know if you need a dry shake, but I'll do it anyway, just briefly. So the foam is actually made from a bark extract.
Nice shake, nice smile.
So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to strain it into the old-fashioned, smoke it, and then add ice. Of course, you can add ice first if you like. Just thought I'd do it this way because we'll leave a bit of headroom so that
Oh, it looks very
any
nice.
smoke in there
I
to
like
infuse
that.
flavor.
That smoked wood chips on there. Nice, nice. Now just look at that beautiful, beautiful smoke going into that. Oh yeah. Look at that. That's gorgeous.
Nice.
Nice.
As you can see, there's plenty of smoke that is transferred into the glass, so you should get a nice smoky flavour to the cocktail. Plenty of smoke. I'm just garnishing with a lemon wedge.
Nice. Yeah.
There you have a smoking honey hive. Cheers.
Smoking honey hive.
P.S. If you can think of a better name, let me know in the comments below.
Let's see. Anybody in chat? Do you think you guys have a better name for this? Want to see if we can help out Steve the bartender with his name on this. I'm sure probably by now he has gotten one, but I'm kind of curious. Honestly, you might not even need like the word honey for the honey hive. Like it might just be kind of assumed. With the hive thing, could just be the smoking hive or burning hive. I don't know. Doesn't sound as pleasant. I think smoking honey hive is a decent name for it. I don't know if anything would be much better than that. So, sorry, Steve. I don't know if I can help you out with that. Maybe I'm not the best at naming these things after all, anyway.
This is delicious.
I bet. It looks delicious. It looks fantastic.
The smoke, I'd say, is more prominent on the nose.
Yeah.
But it definitely adds to the drink. But as far as the drink goes, it's like velvety. You've got the foaming bitters, and that gives it a nice texture. And you get some light spice. I mean, this is not a very strong flavored cinnamon syrup. So you get this really delicate cinnamon spice to it. But that honeybee makes an absolutely delicious sour.
I mean, you know, it's very well known that smell is a big part of taste, so that getting the smoke mostly on the nose still adds so much to this cocktail, I'd bet. And I'm definitely gonna have to give it a try. I'm gonna definitely try this cocktail sometime very soon. Keep your eyes out, Steve, because I'm gonna try it, and I'm gonna make a video.
And of course, if you don't have a smoker, then you could probably put a few drops of Islay whiskey and add that little bit of smokiness that way. Just coat the glass. You could also serve this drink up in a coupe. Completely up to you.
I'd probably do
Next
that.
drink we're making is the bourbon strawberry iced tea, which is a batch cocktail, and the full-size recipe serves 5.
Batch cocktail life saver right there. Batch cocktails are definitely a lifesaver. Especially if you're like doing a family event or something like that, then as I was saying before, it prevents you having to do so much work, and you still get to like enjoy having your family's company and such like that. This one potentially really interesting by the name. I kind of want to see how that turns out and kind of get an estimate of how that is going to taste.
But I'm only doing half. So the recipe you see on the screen is what I'm going to be making, but if you want the full recipe to serve 5 people, it'll be in the description below.
Okay.
So 150 ml, 5 ounces of your preferred bourbon. I'm using Yellow Rose.
Yellow Rose bourbon. I haven't heard of that one.
And this one you can measure the ingredients out and pour it straight into the bottle. This is about a ½ liter bottle, so it should be spot on.
I need to get some more of these bottles as well to make these batch cocktails.
Next, the lemon juice.
Putting that strainer over there.
2.
So putting the strainer over there, very important. You definitely want to double strain out your citrus because you don't want the pulp. Just makes it a cleaner cocktail, you know. I mean, I know, of course, probably some people will prefer that, having that pulp in there, but I guess, like, to each their own, but I would definitely say double strain it.
2.5 ounces. Ah! Lemon juice in the eye. So actually, a lot of drinks I try for the first time on the channel, and I was a little bit wary of this one, so I made it prior, and I was very pleasantly surprised.
A
Really
nice
simple
bright
drink, you can
cocktail can always
pre-batch
be
it.
very nice.
Super easy to serve. And there's only a couple of quick steps to serve this drink. So what I'll do, I'll simply batch it all in the bottle, you keep it in the fridge, and then when it comes time to serving, you just muddle the strawberries and pour it over ice.
Nice.
Easy.
Seems pretty simple there, like, nice.
So 75 ml, 2.5 ounces, and I'll
like
give it a
a-
fine strain at the same time.
A bourbon
Then
sour
60 ml of simple syrup, 2 ounces.
with iced tea in it, and strawberries muddled.
And last ingredient is an unsweetened iced tea. So this is just homemade. It's essentially English breakfast tea, 1 tea bag to each 250 ml. So 225 ml, which is 7.5 ounces.
Nice, nice. Okay.
Grammarly adds confidence. So you underline your message.
Ads.
And
Yo, all my homies hate ads. What about you guys? You agree with that?
Then keep it in the fridge until you're ready to serve. Okay, on to the individual drink preparation. I've had the bourbon iced tea sitting in the fridge for some time, and I want to grab a large strawberry, 2 strawberries if they're a little bit small, and then chop them up roughly, and throw them into the glass before muddling. Once the strawberry's been pulverized, add ice, and then pour over your bourbon iced tea.
You know, I think this would come out very fantastic. It'd be light and bright, and who doesn't love a nice iced tea
And
on
for
a hot
garnish, you
day?
can either use a strawberry on the side of the glass, or a couple of sprigs of mint. Completely up to you. Could do both.
Be very nice for his temperature
There you
this
have
hot
a
New Year.
bourbon strawberry iced tea. Cheers.
Let me hear it.
Like, super easy drinking. If you love your whiskey, love strawberries, then this flavor combination works really well. Strawberry and tea, great combination. It's super handy that it's pre-batched. It's not carbonated, so it will keep really well in the bottle. Make it up in the morning and you're good to go. Very easy, great for a hot day.
I'll say easy. That would kick ass. I need to start getting some of these bottles and start batching out some stuff. Would make my life a lot easier on these events, and I think you guys should too if you ever think about doing this kind of thing.
And tea drinks are really growing on me. I've done a few recently. I've done the Earl Grey Martini, which I'll link to up here in the description so you can check that out. That's a fantastic cocktail. Fish House Punch, that's another one. I haven't had too many other than those, but that's 3 out of 3 so far, so I think I'm going to have more tea cocktails.
Yeah. Bottled Manhattan.
And one for the fans of spirit-forward drinks, I'm making the Manhattan. So this recipe, or this ratio, comes from the Liquid Intelligence cocktail book by Dave Arnold. I'll link to that in the description below so you can check it out. A fantastic book, and it delves into more of the science side of drinks. Yeah, so this is relatively super easy. You can batch it up, keep it in the fridge. Again, the size of the drink that I'm doing is a half size serve. If you do the full size, which is in the description below, it'll make 9 Manhattans. So 500 ml, we'll only do with 4.5 Manhattans, roughly. So choose your preferred rye. I'm using Whistle Pig 10 and measure out 270 ml.
Okay.
9 ounces.
So it's just going to be like a basic Manhattan. I'm actually quite curious. You know, obviously the ratio is very similar to the last video that we talked about before.
And of course, you have to account for dilution, which normally occurs when you're stirring down the cocktail. We're serving it straight from the fridge, so you need to add filtered water into this. 195 ml or 6.5 ounces.
Okay, I was going to be curious about how he was doing that. I was like, is he going to put it in the fridge and then serve it up over ice and stir it before serving it, or are you just pouring it straight into a coupe? And adding this dilution and then putting it in the fridge will account for dilution and chills, so I'd assume he would just pour that straight into a coupe after that. Let me see.
Holder, and it'll probably get it closer to that -5 degree temperature. You want to use a small coupe or like a Nick and Nora, that works really well. Keep in mind you want to have a wash line as well, so meaning don't fill it up to the very brim, and that should be roughly be 1 serve, 135 ml, or 4.5 ounces. 4.5 ounces. They have a bottled Manhattan. Cheers.
It looks lovely. It looks just like the stirred one that he had before. I like it.
Excellent.
Excellent. Nice.
Whistle Pig Rye 10-year makes a fantastic Manhattan. Another alternative, Rittenhouse would be a really popular choice. You can use whatever rye, bourbon whiskey if you like. Completely up to you. Before I duck off to enjoy my New Year's Eve, make sure you guys have a safe one, and I'll see you in 2022.
Fantastic. Thank you, Steve. We are in 2022 now, and hasn't been the best, but next video is going to be the best. Let me see. The best whiskey sour recipe, Steve the Bartender. Here we are. We don't want this. I don't want this part. I don't want the ads. Chat, tell me how you feel about ads. How do you guys like ads? Fucking hate them, right? Please.
We're gonna see you can put on.
You know how you can avoid them on my channel? You can definitely avoid them on my channel pretty easily, so that you don't have to get those ads. It's very, very simple. All you gotta do is hit that subscribe button down below, and then boom, no more ads.
So vlog, I'm Steve the Bartender, and today I'm showing you how to make a whiskey sour. I couldn't believe that I haven't actually made a whiskey sour as a sole video on the channel, so I had to make this one.
That is crazy.
Recently on punchdrink.com, and I came across an article about the best whiskey sour recipe. They invited 17 of America's best bartenders to submit a whiskey sour recipe, and then they sat down with the judging panel and decided which one was the best. So today I'm showing you the 3 top whiskey sour recipes. Make sure you stick around because the last one, there's a little bit of an unorthodox twist on the whiskey sour, an ingredient that wouldn't normally go in one, and probably for that reason it was voted the best whiskey sour. So traditionally whiskey sour is just whiskey, lemon juice and sugar, and as time went on it called for the addition of egg white to add texture to the drink. I'm not going to go into the history and the background of the drink. I'll leave that information in the description below because I'm just pumped to try the 3 best whiskey sour recipes that are available. The first one comes from Neil Bodenheimer. I'll leave more detail about these particular bartenders, where they work, where they're from, in the description as well.
Excellent. I'd love to learn about that.
Kind of details. This one is a bourbon-based whiskey sour.
Oh.
Actually, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to follow his recipe to a T, which actually calls for dry shaking just some of the ingredients, not all of them. But if you're making this at home, you can dry shake all the ingredients at once if you like. So it calls for 22.5 ml, 3/4 ounce of fresh lemon juice.
Yep.
And believe it or not, that is the juice from just 2 lemons. These things are monsters.
That's incredible.
Then we've got a small egg. It's actually a large egg, so I'll measure it out. So a small egg is going to be about 15 ml or half an ounce.
Okay. Half an ounce of an egg white.
And then dry shake those ingredients.
Dry shaking just the juice in that. Okay.
Then measure 60 ml, 2 ounces of bourbon. Add that straight in.
Okay.
And then 22.5 ml, 3/4 ounce of 1:1 simple syrup.
I'm glad that he did a 1:1 syrup here because the bourbon's already going to add quite a bit of sweetness to the cocktail. So I would have even probably, not like I'm the expert, he's obviously the expert for like winning such high regards here. I probably would have even gone like higher on the lemon juice than on the simple, especially with a bourbon. But obviously, like, this came out fantastic enough to win an award, so I don't know what I'm talking about. We'll see.
And it specifically calls for 5 ice cubes.
5.
Pretty sure I didn't actually write it down, but I'm pretty sure it said shake 20 times.
20. Perfect. Very
now
specific.
Fill that old-fashioned glass with ice. And fine strain over the top.
Okay, he didn't use like 1 cube or 1 sphere or anything. He just filled it with ice. I kind of like it. Nice catch. Good, good.
And I'll have to wait until the foam separates. In the meantime, I'll slice an orange.
What does he have in that? We're gonna
grab
find
my
out.
skewered maraschino.
Okay. So he's got some kind of flag going there. Nice.
So now that that's separated, spray with Angostura bitters.
Oh, spray of Ango.
Kind of missed them. And then garnish with a slice of orange and maraschino cherry.
Now that looks beautiful.
There's number 3 in the top 3 whiskey sour recipes.
All right.
Cheers.
Let me hear how it tastes. Let me see it.
That's a bloody delicious whiskey sour. It's like classic style. That's pretty much exactly how I would make my whiskey sours. The only difference is I do a dash of bitters as opposed to spraying over the top. But I do like the addition of the spray on the top really lets the aromatic bitters aroma. It's like just really vibrant.
Okay.
It's good.
It's good.
When your child has a disability,
Must be
you
good.
need to be tough.
It looked good. I mean, I hope so.
So on to the second best
Number
whiskey
2.
sour recipe by Eric Adkins. This is incredibly similar.
All right, he has a coupe here. I love love serving my whiskey sours up. I like to put them up in a coupe, and it's fantastic that way. This is incredibly similar to the first one, he says. I'm interested. Let's see.
So the first one with 3 subtle changes. We're using slightly less sugar syrup, so therefore it's more acidic and not as sweet. And we're serving it up in a coupe glass instead of over ice, and no Angostura bitters spray. But apart from that, it's essentially the same. So there's small, minute tweaks that takes it to that next level. According to the judges, I haven't tried it yet, so we'll soon find out. So this one calls for 60 ml of bourbon whiskey.
Okay.
And 22.5 ml.
3/4 ounce of lemon juice.
3/4 ounce of fresh lemon juice.
Okay.
15 ml, half an ounce.
See here.
Of simple syrup, 1:1.
See, no, so I've seen this video before, but I saw it years ago, like when it came out. I don't know if that was 2 years ago or something like that, but that's what I was saying on the last one. I didn't remember this recipe, honestly. That the bourbon already adds quite a bit of sweetness to this cocktail, so cutting down on the simple is probably a pretty good idea, so that you actually let that sour come out rather than being too, I hate to say too balanced, but rather than having it being completely like leveled out by the sweetness, you still get a bit of that sour. I'd like that.
And egg white, 15 ml, half an ounce. And again, dry shake.
Nice dry. That was a quick
And
dry.
4
Four
cubes.
4 cubes.
Very
This guy's-
specific.
4 cubes. Very specific.
4 ice
Yes.
cubes. And wet shake.
Nice smile. Thank you, Steve. He has that chilling there. He has the glass chilling right here. I like
Straight
that.
into a chilled glass
Yep.
and double strain.
Nice chilled glass always makes a big diff.
And they have Eric Adkins' second most popular whiskey sour recipe. I don't actually think I've ever personally served up a whiskey sour in a coupe glass. I know it's probably pretty popular and a lot of people
I
do
love
it
that.
like that. It's just, I haven't.
It's my favorite way.
As predicted, it's a little bit more acidic.
Yep.
Kind of subdues the whiskey because it's got that higher acid profile.
I like the acid profile.
Prefer the first one. Ooh.
Ooh. A controversy. The controversy.
I like that tiny little bit more of sugar and the aromas for the aromatic bitters. But this is still very, very delicious.
Now, I do still enjoy the aromatic bitters, though, so I usually like to drop a couple drops on the top of it. Maybe get like a little swirl going or something like that on top. But other than that, that is probably my ideal whiskey sour right there. But I also like rye. I also prefer rye in them. So maybe not quite. Let's see how number 1 is.
On to the number 1 whiskey sour recipe by Dan Sabo, as voted by a panel from punchdrink.com. Kind of sounds like I'm doing a sponsored video for Punch Drink, but I'm not. It's just a really good website, so make sure you check it out if you haven't already. The difference with this one is it calls for 100 proof rye whiskey. The original recipe does call for Rittenhouse. I'm using Knob Creek, but it still is the same percentage, assuming because it's a stronger whiskey, he has also increased the citrus component and also the sugar. So everything's kind of bolstered up. This one calls for 60 ml of 100 proof rye.
100 proof rye. Yes. Nice and strong. You get like a spirit forward whiskey sour, and I kind of like that almost.
Then 30 ml, 1 ounce of fresh lemon juice.
1 ounce, yep. Bringing up the content, like he was saying,
And
bulk it up.
15 ml of rich simple syrup, which is a 2-to-1 sugar syrup by weight.
Yep, so 2
15
to
mil
1
half-ounce.
means it's going to be pretty sweet.
You
So
won't be able to see it on camera, but you can definitely tell it's a lot thicker than the other simple syrup.
absolutely.
Then, secret sauce, 15 mil, half an ounce of freshly squeezed orange juice.
Orange juice.
Controversial.
Oops. What did I
I
do?
like it from the rye whiskey. I'm gonna have to do a. Just do.
Let's bring this back.
Sauce, 15 mil.
There we go. That's where we
half an
were.
ounce of freshly squeezed orange juice.
I like that addition. That's interesting,
Controversial.
and I'd like to.
Freshly squeezed.
I think I have tried it, but I
We've
want to
got
try
egg
that
white,
again.
15 mil. Now, a small tip. I can't remember who told me this. It wasn't actually that long ago. If you do want to actually measure out your egg white, if you do use a knife to quickly cut the egg white, then it's actually easier to pour and kind of separate. Otherwise, if you don't do that, the whole thing's just going to just dump into your jigger. So 15 ml egg white, and then dry shake.
Dry shake. Yep.
Emulsify the egg.
How many ice cubes?
Now this recipe doesn't call for the number of cubes I'm meant to use, so just throwing in a big scoop.
Aww. Yeah.
Also doesn't call for a double strain, so just straining over fresh ice into an old-fashioned
Single
glass.
strain too. Oh, look at
Find a
that.
little bit left in there for later.
That definitely looks different.
And garnish.
So that the color definitely looks a little bit different to me, and I like that. That orange is interesting. I mean, I guess you already garnish it with the orange, so I can kind of see it. I'd like to try that. I think I'm gonna have to try that again.
With an orange slice. And a maraschino cherry. There you have the best whiskey sour recipe, according to a panel of judges.
Give me the notes. Give
Have
me
my
the
notes.
notes, Steve. I want to see it.
That's really good. I'm gonna have to do a side-by-side comparison because it's been a couple minutes since I tried the first one.
Yep.
It's definitely got some more kick from the 100 proof whiskey.
I like it.
Sort of subtle spice to it.
Sounds
Let's
nice.
line up all three. So onto the side-by-side tasting of the 3 best whiskey sour recipes to let you know personally what I think. First up, Neil Bodenheimer's whiskey sour, which was a little bit sweeter. Bourbon-based whiskey sour. Right, it's definitely the sweeter of the 3, but I love it. I like it. The beautiful balance between the sugar and the citrus. You could probably do with that template, but use the rye whiskey instead. That would work really nice.
Yep. I would probably do that, if anything. If I'm balancing out, if I'm doing equal parts of the sugar to the lemon, I would probably do a rye, because the bourbon's already gonna make it even sweeter, and then it's more sweet than it is sour. So that's probably what my
It's an
take would be.
extremely crushable whiskey sour recipe. I like it. And on to Eric Adkins. As I said earlier, I've never served my whiskey sour up, but actually, I quite like it. It's dainty.
It's dainty. This man must be like big too. Like I don't know. I don't know how tall Steve the bartender is. Steve, if you're watching this, let me know. Let me know how tall you are, cause like I don't know, but to scale here, it's not insulting. I hope I'm not insulting. That's not what I'm trying to do here. You seem like huge. You seem like a huge dude. Which is not a bad thing. It's pretty cool, but I'm tiny. I'm opposite. I'm super tiny. Um, that's pretty cool. I kind of notice it a lot more right now while you're holding this little coop, and it seems so tiny to you. Like,
I just don't think it's quite balanced. It's a little bit.
oh, you know what? Here we are. So like compared, I have a coop that I used recently right here. Like to me, this seems a little bigger on me, and it's like so tiny and dainty on you.
Too acidic for me. It just needs that touch more sugar. But again, you can't go wrong with a whiskey sour. They're tasty. And this one is by Dan Sabo, voted by panelists as being the #1 whiskey sour recipe, utilizing rye whiskey.
Push it down in there. I think I'd agree with these rankings.
It's perfectly balanced. So I'm going to take this one out and just be comparing the two, because these are the two that I prefer. They're both slightly different. You got this underlying spiciness from the rye whiskey. You've definitely got more booze there. It's a little bit sweeter, but I like the sweetness. Ugh, it's hard.
Steve, please. Be a conformist like me.
Please don't comment that I should have a glass of water between tasting them to clear my palate. I'm drinking a whiskey sour.
Hey, Steve. Hey, you should have a glass of water in between to cleanse your palate. Just.
I can understand where the panelists are coming from. A little bit more complexity, whether that is a sweeter style whiskey sour. For the average person, probably make it a little bit sweeter. For someone that loves their whiskey, or a professional bartender, someone that probably drinks a little bit too much, then I'd go for the rye whiskey, the rye forward.
Oh, he's calling me out.
At the end of the day, I would absolutely love either of these.
He's calling me out. I am definitely someone who
I'd like to
drinks
see
too
your
much.
take on it. If you try them both, let me know in the comments below, and let me know what your preferred whiskey sour recipe is. So 2 quick things before I go. If you did enjoy today's video and you love whiskey cocktails, make sure you check out the whiskey cocktail playlist up here. And question of the day I had by... I don't even know who it was.
Fuck, I don't even know. I love that.
And question of the day from Wilson Coe: can I replace lemon juice for the lime juice? Now, in a bartending environment, you wouldn't do that. Lemon and lime juice is somewhat similar. They're both highly acidic citrus juices. Lemon juice does have more sugar content, and lime juice is slightly more acidic. But in saying that, if you don't have access to lemons or you don't have access to limes, then you could easily substitute them. That's not a problem. If I'm making cocktails for friends at home and I've got limes in the fridge but I wanted lemons, I'll still use the limes. But in a professional setting where I'm making drinks for paying guests, I'll make sure I have the right citrus for that particular drink. But saying that, at home, do what you want.
Yeah, definitely do what you want, but also I wouldn't do it. Even at home, if I'm making like if I'm making like a whiskey sour for someone and I only have limes, I'd be like, fuck it, we're going to the store right now. And if you really want it and I don't have the money, you're buying lemons because you really want this. I'm not gonna make you a whiskey sour with lime juice. I'm personally not gonna do it. That's just me. I personally won't. Now I'm kind of interested in the descriptions down here. Do we have... Neil's recipe is my personal favorite of the 3 finalists. Using a bourbon whiskey base makes it sweeter. Did you have more info on them? Well, I don't see the extra information about those bartenders, but whatever. I was actually quite kind of curious on that. But yeah, with that, I think I'm gonna go ahead and just we're gonna go back to we're on Google, Steve the Bartender website. Let's just go back here. And my last shout out that I do want to give is in the shop here. It's not even in this shop, is it? No, it's not. It's Threefold Distilling. Visit anyway because apparently my computer is stupid. I hate it. I hate stuff that I have on here. I'm gonna have to like clean through my computer real quick. But Threefold Distilling. This is Steve the Bartender's aromatic gins uh, that he makes. This is one of the reasons why he's quite busy of a person, is that he runs all these socials, he makes these videos, but he also helps run this distillery. I'm not sure if he is like the owner or if he's just highly ranked up there. Let me see. Meet the Distillers, a team of 3 passionate bartenders crafting unique spirits, good vibes, and great times. Yep, so there he is right here, and his 2 friends. There's a VIP list. I'd recommend that you guys check out the VIP list. I know most of you are going to be in America. It's not available to ship to us yet, but I hope it is very soon, because I definitely need to try this gin. If Steve the Bartender makes it, he probably heavily approves of it. He's proud of his product. So yeah, you guys check it out. If you're ever in Australia, definitely see if you can check it out as well. I might honestly want to go to Australia just to try it. Steve, you know, if you need if you want a visitor to tour the distillery, let me come down under and try it out. But with that, check out the gin. Check out Steve the Bartender's book. It was super generous of him to allow us to do this, talking about his videos all together. Because he works very hard on this, and I don't ever want to discredit any of his work, because he works very, very, very hard on this stuff. Um, so yeah, check him out. I love him. You guys should love him too. With that, we are gonna go